Thanks for staying with us. Today is World Press Freedom Day, and the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, is calling on government at all levels, the media and civil society organizations to work together to protect freedom of expression while embracing technology that advances rather than diminishing the values Nigeria holds dear. The minister's advice comes as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark this year's World Press Freedom Day with the theme Reporting in the Brave New World, the Impact of Artificial Intelligence on Press Freedom and the Media. Mr. Idris reaffirms that the Tinubu administration remains deeply committed to upholding press freedom as a cornerstone to democracy, explaining that a free and responsible media is the lifeblood of any democratic society, which gives citizens the power to express themselves freely and hold leaders accountable. He called on media organizations to be vigilant and not allow their platforms, whether traditional or digital, to be hijacked by subversive elements, terrorists, anti-state actors, or ultra-nationalist groups who seek to undermine collective peace and sovereignty of the country. Well, let's bring in a journalist now. He joins us from Morocco. Francis Hughes, it's good to have you join us. And should I say congratulations to you and thank you for the good job you do as a journalist.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. But first, let me ask you, what does press freedom mean to you, and why is it really essential in today's world, considering how the media is moving on to AI, to artificial intelligence? And I would like you to also put it in some kind of context, putting press freedom in Morocco into context for us.
Well, I'm actually in Morocco at a conference. I live in Belfast in Ireland, but I can definitely address the question that you've asked. It depends on your interpretation of journalism. It depends on your interpretation of what is freedom of speech. And it depends on whether you believe that journalism should hold truth to power. Now, this is International Freedom Day for journalists. And my first thought is for the 230 plus press journalists in Gaza who have been murdered during this heinous onslaught upon the people of Gaza. They have been targeted and they have been murdered to prevent them from speaking the truth to the wider world. The Zionists refuse to allow international Western press to go into Gaza to fact find, which is what journalism should do, to seek out the facts, to find out the truth and to report that truth to a wider audience. So that's being prevented in Gaza. There is actually a crackdown in the West on the freedom of press. If you remember the case of Julian Assange, wrongly imprisoned in Belmarsh prison in London as a Category A terrorist type prisoner. We have the suppression of the alternative media. So we have several types of journalism. You have state journalism, which is inspired and is overseen by the bureaucracy of government. You have the private media, which is the likes of the Murdoch and the Maxwell groups. And those journalists, in my opinion, are beholden to the people who pay their wages. So whoever pays the piper calls the tune. I have stopped reading Western media. I used to read The Guardian. I used to read The Observer. I used to read The Times. I no longer read any of those papers because they are in complete alignment with the government narrative on what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Africa. They are taking on the position espoused by the French government. So you have state media, then you have private media that works for the interests of private corporations, and then you have the independent journalists, many of whom who are speaking out against what's happening in Palestine. They're speaking out about what's happening in Donbass and eastern Ukraine. Many of these people have been detained at airports in London and in Austria and in other Western countries and are threatened under the Terrorism Act that if they continue to speak their truth, if they continue to provide their facts to a wider audience, they could possibly go to jail.
I was just going to ask you, really, if you take a look at, from your own experience, if you could share from your experience where you felt your freedom to report was restricted or challenged. And I also want you to also speak to the fact that how do we navigate between reporting the truth and dealing with, of course, potential backlash, just like you earlier alluded to?
Well, if you believe in freedom of the press and you believe in free speech, unless people are infringing the laws of society around defamation and libel and using language that may incite violence or racial hatred or discrimination, people should be free to speak. Journalists should be free to write. It is actually, it's incumbent on the person who watches the television, listens to the radio, reads the paper, goes digitally online on social media, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Meta. It is the person's discernment of what they're being told. It's up to the individual to seek out the truth, you know, the wheat from the chaff in order to get the truth. But if you suppress one part of society, then you're denying people a voice. That in itself is a dangerous thing. When people are not heard, that can lead to civil disorder, civil strife, and violence. And we have state propaganda, we have corporate propaganda, we have the propaganda of imperialism like the EU and like America. So we must have a voice for everyone. There must be a place in journalism, in the media, for everyone's voice to be heard. Now, if you don't like what you're hearing, you don't have to listen to it. You can turn off the television, you can turn off the radio, you can stop buying the newspapers, which is what I've done. I don't watch the BBC, I don't watch CNN, I don't watch any of these corporate medias that are thus just there to control the public narrative around the domestic and foreign policies of their governments. When I grew up in Belfast during the...
I'm afraid we do not have so much time, but I'll just give you like 30 seconds just to land your thought, and so we can move into other stories.
I think people should use discernment. They should read as much as they possibly can. They should educate themselves and know the difference between propaganda and truth.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and congratulations to you. Thank you for the good work you do as a journalist.